Guys of Reddit, what did your girlfriend's dad do to establish dominance? My ex-wife's father, actually a pretty cool guy, one year at Christmas. I was trying to open a package that my nephew had gotten, and my father-in-law said just use your pocket knife. I said sorry, I don't carry a pocket knife. I'll go get one from the kitchen. He said what kind of a man doesn't carry a pocket knife? I sat there for a minute, trying to think of a response, feeling pretty low. He started laughing and said sorry, Shirley's, mother-in-law's, dad asked me that one time and I've been waiting to use it on you. My ex-wife and I are still on pretty decent terms. He passed away recently. It was a really sad thing, knowing that he was gone. Dated a girl back in high school who took me to her grandparents for a family reunion type meal. Sometime after the dinner, her grandfather took me outside to talk and we started walking towards his workshop. So he opens the door and suddenly I am staring down the barrel of a cannon. Not a model, not a toy. A fully functioning Civil War cannon surrounded by all manner of historical weaponry. Muskets, rifles, swords, bayonets, battle axes, even a suit of armor. You name it, old boy collected it. Needless to say, I knew right then and there that Gramps didn't around and I probably shouldn't do anything to really piss off his granddaughter. There's was a guy who worked in my old building named Donnie that had worked there for like 40 years and no one knows what he does. He outlasted everyone who worked there before him, so we have no one to ask. Here's a rundown of what we know. He has a corner office with a window one floor above mine. He had a secretary years ago but she retired and he declined having a new one and just got added to another secretary's responsibilities. He almost never got any calls, like maybe 15 in the years I worked there. His claim to have made over 150k a year. His title is Director of Assets Management, which I think he made up for himself. He doesn't have anything to do with our accounting or financial department. When asked what he does, he laughs and says, I kill people. I sat with his wife once a retirement party and I asked her and she said I'm not really sure on the specifics but something to do with contract negotiations and somehow that involves killing people. When he retired they eliminated the position and delegated his duties to other members of the office. None of whom really understood what their new duties were, and while I was there it never came up. I had a theory but I've since left the job so I was never able to confirm. I will say I think he might actually kill people. *Edit, I should have mentioned Donnie wasn't a buffoon or anything. He was incredibly well educated, well spoken, and one of the funniest people I've ever met. I don't think the job was a handout or anything. I think he gained a unique set of responsibilities as people left or retired. I'd like to hear some theories. When I was 18 I went over to my girlfriend's parents' house for dinner, in rural Montana, to meet her parents for the first time. My girlfriend knocks on the door, her dad answered the door with a 12 gauge. Looks me dead in the eye and says, so you're the guy who's been banging my daughter? Girlfriend shakes her head and walks into the house, leaving me on the porch with her dad. After about 4 seconds of me trying not to piss myself, he laughed and told me he had been waiting 18 years to do that. I guess it had been a running joke in the family that he was going to meet whatever boy she brought home at the door with a shotgun and I was the first boyfriend she had brought home. I actually found it pretty funny, once my heart rate settled to below heart attack levels. They are a pretty liberal family of artists who are really open about, and I ended up living in a teepee in their backyard for a summer. It's still joked about 20 years later. While his daughter and I are no longer together, we dated for about 4 years, I am still very close with her and her family and stop by whenever I'm in the area. Edit, we broke up after our relationship had run its course. She wanted to move to New York, I wanted to go to college, and we didn't want to do the long distance thing. There were a few awkward years of relearning how to interact with each other, but we figured it out. I think we both knew that what we had a kinda cool connection and wanted to stay friends. We actually live in the same city now, and her husband had twins a few years ago. My mom takes care of the kids 2 days a week and is basically their third grandma. It's super awesome as my wife and I are not having kids, so my mom has some grandkids in her life now. And my wife and I stay at her parents' place whenever we are in Montana. Edit 2, words that allow a sentence to make sense. My boyfriend's dad, I'm a girl, did a similar thing, but with very opposite intentions. He was a Vietnam/Gulf War/Afghanistan vet, still in the military. He didn't talk much, like at all, just kind of lurked around the house while I talked to his mom. The last time we met, I was going away to the East Coast for college. Boyfriend's family was on the West Coast, where I grew up, so we had to break things off sadly. His dad was cleaning guns in the garage, and he comes over, shakes my hand, and hands me an M16 cleaning kit. Like this, https://amazonaz.com/mgmcontents/arms/2013/001/11/8313501_Otis_Military_spec_640.jpg. He says here, you might get some use out of this. First and last thing I remember him saying to me. It was the bizarrest sweetest thing, because I was leaving to go to a small private school in Massachusetts not known for their plentiful dirty M16s waiting to be cleaned, but, 12 years later, I still have my little kit just in case. My father-in-law held some title for state boxing champ in his home state back in the day. The first time we drove over to see him, he was drunk and had a huge cut across the bridge of his nose. Apparently, he had beat the out of 3 20-something-year-old bullies the night before when they decided to jump him at the bar. His 70-something-year-old dad was mugged in his own home one time. My father-in-law found the guy who did it, followed him inside his house and broke his knees and elbows. He then proceeded to beat the out of the guy to the point of brain damage. In his words, if they can't talk, they can't identify you. Dude is chill as every time I'm around, and thanks me every time I see him for getting his daughter out of the hellhole they lived in. But I know for a fact if I ever break her heart, he'd bury me. If I ever leave, it'll have to be the country. Edit, holy smokes, this blew up. Some clarification based on the comments below. The muggers didn't just break in and take stuff, they waited until my wife's grandpa got home, followed him in and beat the out of him. Put him in the hospital for like a week with broken bones and stuff. Not justifying what my father-in-law did, but just clarifying that it wasn't a total overreaction. Secondly, I'm safe, my wife is safe, and no, I don't need an intervention. My father-in-law is actually a super cool guy who has never given me trouble for a second. He will call me up out of the blue and thank me for taking care of his daughter, because he knows if she wasn't with me, she'd have probably ended up with one of the she'd been dating around there. My ex-father-in-law never did anything to really establish dominance. He shook my hand and looked at me and asked how I was doing. About 7 months later, when she was my girlfriend, we went and told him and her mother that she was pregnant, but we had already started saving extra money and had a plan for when the baby was born. This was in 2002. He once again shook my hand and thanked me for actually being a real man. Eventually he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and we moved in with them so we could keep a better eye on him. I ended up with not only another father figure like my grandfather, but a best friend. We did everything together and had a lot of fun. We'd pick on each other so much it would easily get out of hand, much to the rolling of eyes of our respective wives. He went missing a couple of times, went for a walk and got turned around and then went for a drive and got lost. I was terrified but kept my composite and didn't stop looking until we found him, hours later. He was a stereotypical Texan with a lot of guns, cowboy boots and hats but with a heart the size of Texas itself to match. Fun fact, when his daughter, my wife, ended up cheating on me, which led to separation and divorce, she thought it was okay to bring the new guy around a couple of months after our daughter and I moved back near my family. He excused himself and come back with one of his shotguns and simply proclaimed, "You're not Nemesis," and the guy actually pissed himself. He told me about it later on the phone, cracking up, and he said, "I'm not as far gone as they think sometimes," and he told me that I will forever be his son. I miss that Texan bastard.